Hello and welcome everyone. I'm just delighted to be here with Gary Hagee today. We have something very special in store for you, and honestly, hearing him share just earlier this morning gave me the chills and goosebumps. And even though I've heard this story a few times, it makes me feel that way every time I hear it, because it just makes me realize how glad I am that I said yes and was willing to open my mouth and share this with other people. Really, this information here about protandem and nerve 2 activation is life-changing. And when I learned about it, I was so blown away, and I was wishing I had heard it sooner. And all these people came into my mind who I knew could benefit if they took a look and decided to use it for themselves. So Gary and his wife, Terry, were the first people who came to mind, really. They're my husband's best friend's parents, and I wanted them to see this information. And Gary here is going to share with you the rest of the story. Thank you, Gary, for being here.
All right, well, thank you, Melody. Yeah, sorry, Terry isn't here with me right now. She's gone with our daughter, but about 5 years ago, she started experiencing abdominal pain, and she was thinking it was probably kidney stones, so she was trying lots of different natural remedies, drinking different things to try to resolve that. But after going to her doctor and having some scans, we found out that it was actually cancer. So she needed to have surgery, so they did that. And after the biopsy, they said it looked like it was a slow-growing cancer that might possibly come back in the future, but that surgery at that point was about the only option. So she did not want to go to an oncologist and have chemo and radiation. So she ended up going to a health resort for a 10-day program and did lots of cleanses and hyperbaric chamber and hydrotherapy and liver cleanses and all kinds of drinks and things, exercise and so forth. And we feel that was helpful. So over the course of the next 2 years, she was trying to be careful with her health and diet and so forth. But at the end of 2 years, she started experiencing abdominal pain again. And so we ended up going back to the doctor, and they said, looks like the cancer has returned. And we were in the process of trying to determine maybe a surgery date and so forth, when suddenly she was hit by extreme pain and took her into the ER, and she had to have an emergency procedure, and then they sent her to a bigger city where she had where they had more specialists to do her surgery. And after the surgery, when I was waiting in the waiting room, it took a couple extra hours because they had to call in an extra surgeon to help. But the surgeon came out and called me into a little side room and took out a piece of paper and started drawing a diagram of where all the cancer was in her system. It had metastasized, so it was a stage 4. And they said we weren't able to get it all. So without some really intensive treatment, she's probably only got a number of months to live. So we came back home and we went to the oncologist, and this time the oncologist said, well, radiation won't work because the area is too broad. It would be involving too many organs, but you could do chemo or radiation. She didn't want to do chemo, so she chose chemo or hormone therapy. So she chose the hormone therapy and started taking that. But after a few months, she just couldn't handle all the side effects, so she stopped doing that. And the oncologist said, well, probably won't make a huge difference in your outcome, and you may as well enjoy your quality of life, the best you can. So she was going basically with nothing. And in the meantime, they also found that the biopsy showed that it was a very aggressive, rare cancer. That and that the first time that was actually the case also. They had kind of misdiagnosed the first time. So it was very critical for her. So in the meantime, after she had gotten these diagnoses and so forth, she was doing a lot more research. She was trying to be careful with her diet and her, not eating sugar and so forth, because that feeds cancer. But also she was trying to find some other alternative things to do. She was reading lots of books, and of course, everybody shares things with you because they care about you. And that's great. But it's kind of overwhelming sometimes. So we decided you can only do so much. We can only afford so much. One of the options was going to cost thousands of dollars a month. And she actually did start that, but after only a week, she couldn't keep that up. So on one website, she found the top natural remedy for cancer was a certain supplement, and they didn't name it there, but they did give a link in case somebody wanted to find out more about it. So she clicked on the link, took her to another website where she discovered Protandim, and she started doing research on that and felt like, hey, this is really good. So she didn't know where to get any, of course. She'd never heard of it before. So she went on Amazon and found some there and ordered it. Of course, at that time, she didn't know that was not legal. So she ordered some and she started taking it. She was taking it for a few months. And one of the bottles that she got, she was telling me, hey, this smells really weird. And she says, it doesn't seem like the right thing. So later we found out that they do have fakes that are sold on the market. So obviously that one was a fake. But anyway, and then shortly thereafter, Melody called and said, hey, I've got something that I'd like to share with you. And my wife said, really? So when Melody told her, she said, you know what? I found that on the internet and I had ordered some. So she said, but if you're a distributor, she said, I'd be happy to buy it from you. So she started ordering it from Melody and then started taking it, the real stuff. And anyway, so she was taking that along with some other supplements and some other treatments and things she was trying to do. But after a while, she started deciding that she would start whittling down what she was taking and so forth. And also her oncologist was saying, you're doing great. The CAT scans are looking pretty good or whatever. And so she started dropping off different things. But whenever she dropped off Protandim, either because she ran out or just forgot or whatever, she said she started going down into darkness. Her energy would drop immediately, and she started feeling depression, and she would tell me that, and I would say, well, you better keep taking that, whatever it is. I had no clue. She had a bunch of different stuff, so, but
keep up with it all.
yeah, but that happened a few different times, and each time she had that experience, and I would say, well, you better keep taking that one. And so it ended up that that's all she was taking was Protandim, along with her, trying to be careful with her diet and not eat sugar and so forth. Well, after 2 years, which was this last December, just a few months ago, she started complaining of abdominal pain again. And I was like, here we go again, every 2 years. So one morning she woke me up really early and said, I'm in such extreme pain, you got to take me to the ER. So off again we went to the ER, and we got there and we told the ER doctor her history, and he said, well, have you had a CAT scan lately? And she said, no, it's been over a year, because she didn't want to keep getting all that radiation in her stomach, to add to the problem she was already having. So he said, well, I would suggest that you get a CAT scan. And we agreed, yeah, it's probably a good time to do that. So she got carted off to go do the CAT scan, and after a while they brought her back. And when the results came in, the doctor came into the room and he said, well, he said, the CAT scan doesn't show any sign of cancer. And we're like, really? Okay. I didn't quite believe him. And then he said, well, my wife said, I have gallstones. Would that be causing the pain? And he goes, no, the gallstones are not inflamed at all. Gallbladder looks great. And I was like, well, what is it? And he goes, actually, you have an abdominal flu that's very painful.
Wow.
And we're like, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so he gave her some stuff for the flu and sent her home, and she got over that right away and was doing great. And I was like, I had heard Melody talking to her about Protandim and different things, but I hadn't listened at all, and I had no clue about it. But at that point it was like, what is this stuff? So I started doing some research, and I realized, Protandim doesn't claim to have cured cancer or treated it or anything like that. But we realized what it, was doing with the oxidative stress and the glutathione. That was part of the reason she took it, was her dad had been studying about how critical glutathione was, and how that affects cancer and so forth. So anyway, we just had an incredible experience, and after that I decided, you know what, I want to share it with people too, because I know a lot of people that could really use this.
Yeah, wow, that is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, and it's just a powerful testimony to how when we give our body the tools to work as it's designed to, and it's able to work at its optimum level, we truly are able to experience the best quality of life. And even just hearing you say, cool, it's a stomach flu, it's like, traditionally, if anyone was going into the hospital or ER and told that they had that, they wouldn't be excited that they did. But compared to her history, that was like music to your ears. And
yeah,
I'm sure it did make you really happy to have that diagnosis.
Definitely.
That's so great. Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for impacting other people's lives by sharing this with others as well. That's just a beautiful gift that we can keep paying forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.